Hey folks, welcome back to the show. You know, we talk a lot about crazy stuff on here, but today's topic is a whole other level of wild. We're diving deep into the world of zombie drugs. Yeah, you heard that right. These are substances that can actually turn people into something straight out of a horror movie. Throughout history, people have been messing with their minds and bodies with all sorts of concoctions, from ancient rituals to modern-day pharmaceuticals. But these zombie drugs, man, they're in a league of their own. We're talking about intense hallucinations, psychotic breaks, superhuman strength, and people acting like, well, zombies. The stories are terrifying, and the reality is even scarier. These drugs are no joke, and today we're going to break down what makes them tick, what happens when they take over, and why it's crucial to understand the dangers they pose. So buckle up, folks, because this is going to be a wild ride. Alright, let's kick things off with Flakka, also known as Gravel or the cannibal drug. And trust me, that nickname didn't come from nowhere. This stuff is some seriously nasty business. Chemically speaking, Flakka is a synthetic cathinone, similar to the stuff found in bath salts but way more potent. Imagine taking a massive dose of amphetamine and then cranking it up to 11. That's Flakka. Now, what does this stuff do to your brain? Well, it floods it with dopamine and norepinephrine, which are neurotransmitters that play a role in pleasure, reward, and the body's fight or flight response. But here's the thing. Flakka overloads your system, sending your brain and body into overdrive. We're talking about extreme paranoia, hallucinations that feel terrifyingly real, a sudden and intense surge in body temperature, think 105, 106 degrees, and this insane feeling of superhuman strength. People on Flakka have been known to rip car doors off hinges, run naked through traffic, and exhibit violent, aggressive behavior that's completely out of character. And remember that nickname, the cannibal drug? Yeah. That's because there have been several horrific cases of people on Flakka exhibiting cannibalistic behavior. One of the most well-known incidents happened in Florida back in 2016. A man high on Flakka attacked a couple, brutally murdering them and then literally eating the face of the male victim. It was a scene straight out of a horror movie, and it shook the nation. But here's the thing about Flakka: it's cheap, it's easy to get a hold of, and the high, as messed up as it is, can be incredibly addictive, and that's a recipe for disaster. If you thought Flakka was bad, strap in, because crocodile is a whole other level of horrifying. This drug is the stuff of nightmares, and it's not called the flesh-eating drug for nothing. Seriously, this is some hardcore stuff. So what is crocodile? It's a homemade concoction, a toxic brew of desamorphine, a synthetic opioid that's about 10 times stronger than heroin, mixed with a cocktail of gasoline, paint thinner, hydrochloric acid. Yeah, the stuff you clean your pool with, and red phosphorus, which you find on the tips of matches. I mean, just listening to the ingredients makes you want to hurl. Now, why would anyone in their right mind inject this toxic sludge into their veins? Well, it's cheap, way cheaper than heroin. And for addicts desperate for a fix, it's readily available. But the high, man, it comes with a price, a heavy one. Crocodile gets its name from the horrific effects it has on the body. The drug literally eats you from the inside out. Remember those ingredients we talked about? They don't just magically disappear. They wreak havoc on your veins, your tissues, your organs. Users develop these gruesome, scaly sores that resemble crocodile skin, hence the name. And believe me, that's just the tip of the iceberg. The sores quickly turn into gangrene, infections run rampant, and limbs often require amputation. And if that wasn't bad enough, crocodile also rots your bones, destroys your internal organs, and ultimately leads to a slow, agonizing death. It's like your body is decomposing while you're still alive. It's absolutely terrifying. All right, let's switch gears for a second and talk about a drug that's less about turning you into a flesh-eating zombie and more about hijacking your mind. Scopolamine. This drug is derived from a plant called borrachero, also known as devil's breath, and it's native to South America. Now, this plant has a long and storied history in folklore and shamanistic rituals, but in the wrong hands, it's a terrifying weapon. Scopolamine is a powerful hallucinogen, but it also has a unique effect. It can induce a state of amnesia and suggestibility. In other words, it can temporarily wipe your memory and make you incredibly susceptible to suggestion. And that's where the real danger comes in. Criminals, particularly in South America, have been using scopolamine for years to commit crimes, and it's terrifyingly effective. They'll slip it into your drink, blow it in your face, even dust it on a business card, and boom, you're under their control. You'll willingly hand over your ATM card and PIN number, empty your bank account, even help them rob your own house. And the scariest part, you'll have absolutely no memory of it ever happening. It's like you were never even there. People who have been dosed with scopolamine describe feeling like they're in a dream, completely detached from reality. They're aware of what's happening, but they don't feel like they have any control over their actions. It's like their free will has been completely hijacked. Scopolamine is a terrifying example of how drugs can be used to exploit and control others. It's a silent, invisible weapon that can leave you vulnerable and completely at the mercy of your attacker. We've talked about the terrifying effects these zombie drugs have on individuals, but the impact goes far beyond the user. These substances are tearing apart families, overwhelming healthcare systems, and posing significant challenges for law enforcement agencies worldwide. Let's talk about the health consequences first. These drugs are like ticking time bombs. Flakka can cause permanent brain damage, kidney failure, and heart attacks. Crocodile, with its gruesome flesh-eating properties, leaves users disfigured, disabled, and often on the brink of death. And the long-term effects of scopolamine, especially on memory and cognitive function, are still largely unknown. Then there's the issue of addiction. These drugs are highly addictive, and breaking free from their grip is incredibly difficult. Withdrawal symptoms can be brutal, and without proper treatment and support, relapse is a constant threat. The cycle of addiction can be incredibly hard to break, and it often leads to a downward spiral of social isolation, homelessness, and crime. Law enforcement agencies are facing an uphill battle against these zombie drugs. The synthetic nature of these substances makes them difficult to track, and their production is constantly evolving, making it hard for law enforcement to keep up. Plus, the accessibility and low cost of these drugs, particularly crocodile, make them attractive to vulnerable populations, further fueling the crisis. We need to be talking about this, folks. We need to educate ourselves and our communities about the dangers of these drugs. Parents need to have honest conversations with their kids. Schools need to implement drug prevention programs, and governments need to allocate resources for treatment and rehabilitation centers. This isn't just a problem for addicts and their families. It's a societal problem. We need to address the root causes of addiction, provide support for those struggling, and work together to create communities that are safe and free from the grip of these devastating substances. Look, we've just scratched the surface here, but one thing is clear. These so-called zombie drugs are not some urban legend or a horror movie plot. They're real, they're terrifying, and they're destroying lives. We've seen the devastating effects of Flakka, the flesh-eating horror of crocodile, and the mind control capabilities of scopolamine. These substances are not supernatural, they're a chilling example of the dark side of chemistry and the devastating consequences of drug abuse. This isn't about fear-mongering, it's about awareness. We need to shine a light on this darkness, educate ourselves and future generations, and fight for stricter regulations, better treatment options, and a world free from the grip of these terrifying substances. This is a fight we can't afford to lose.